And it's Monday. Monday after Sunday. Sunday following Saturday.
Didn't what band? There was a band, Mamas and the Papas, Monday.
Monday, la da, la da da da.
I wish if I had a voice. Jesus. Maybe I could do a cappella or something.
A cappella? Boy, that's a fine art form. Look, I've got gum on this piece of paper. This is a piece of paper that's supposed to be telling you what's happening. Stick it to your forehead or something. Put it on your nose. That's not a bad idea. I won't lose it then.
Hey, just read it off of there.
Another news today. Boy, Ed, did you have a good time at the Cannabis House Party?
Yeah, I did.
Did you smoke a lot of weed?
Oh. One of your friends, the nice lady from Montreal, the fashion woman.
Oh, yes.
She rolled me a
spliff? Or did she roll you a fatty?
She did it. You know, the style is the tapered thing.
Chillum.
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 That's the Jamaican way.
How do you want your wine? Chillum.
Chillum. That's how I like my beer.
No, and you know, that was good stuff. I mean, everything there I think was sort of high quality.
You think so?
Oh, I was, well, of course, did you see me pulling on that stuff?
Yes, actually. I was quite impressed with your lung capacity. It's like clouds, veritable clouds.
Yeah, you know. So.
What was that?
Yeah.
Oh, so in case you're wondering what the hell we're talking about, we had a Cannabis House Party where I had gathered a large selection of products from the Ontario Cannabis Store, and I invited over a small contingent of qualified individual reprobates who then we proceeded to open up each package and record our sentiment about what we were seeing, smelling, tasting, and then we did a big, huge bong hit. And yeah, we've got some footage of that, but I'm going to save that for a little later.
It was a good night. Was, you know, I think the dogs were going like this.
The dogs
here's what they're barking.
Because they were feeling rough. Anyways, it was a huge success. We got to sample a whole bunch of Ontario cannabis weed. So you probably want to know what we've got going on today. And, you know, there's a fairly high chance of probability that I'm going to tell you. At 3:05, I'm going to let you guess what's going to happen. It does not include Ricky Gerwitz with the headline news. Of course it does. Geoff Benic is going to be here at 3:20. He's the CEO of Aleafia. And at 3:30, our good friend Colin Fisher from StableView Asset Management will join us to talk about some of the technology plays ongoing in the space.
Right.
Dmitry Zaytsev is here at 3:45 to rain on everyone's parade in the cannabis sector. No, I'm just kidding. He's got some interesting comments about upcoming financials. At 4:10, there's a water cooler segment. We never know what that's going to bring. And then at 4:15, I'm going to have a word with Paul Chu, who's the CEO of Weekend Unlimited, now trading under the symbol POT after winning the lottery last week. I remember we talked about that a bit, Ed, and I insinuated that it was not a lottery but an auction, and I stood corrected quickly over the weekend by numerous viewers who said, no, James, it was a lottery, not an auction.
So in other words, they just got lucky and won.
That's the...
Yeah, I don't think they could sell a symbol. It doesn't make sense.
No?
No, that would
do you know whose symbol that was before?
No.
It was...
somebody that sells pots and pans.
It was a potash company.
No shit.
Yeah.
I remember that now. Did you think that... Now that you think of it.
Yes.
I mean, did I think of it?
now that I think of it. Whew. So here's Ricky Gerwitz with the news.
Thanks, James, and here are the headlines moving markets today. The board of Namaste Technologies announced it has terminated the employment of Sean Dollinger as Chief Executive Officer of the company for cause and removed him from his position as director effective immediately. This following an investigation by a special committee of the board of directors. Meni Morim has been appointed interim CEO of the company. To help strengthen their strategic partnerships, the company has also appointed Darren Gill as Chief Strategy Officer. Canopy Rivers has completed its subsequent $9.4 million equity investment in its portfolio company, Canapar Corp. This is the Canadian parent corporation of Canapar SRL, an Italy-based organic hemp production and processing platform. The investment is expected to provide the company with the opportunity to capitalize on the rapidly expanding European CBD market. In December 2018, the company committed to an investment of $17.4 million in Canapar Canada as part of a $25 million non-brokered private placement. The investments in Canapar Canada have increased the company's ownership position from 35% to 49% on a non-diluted basis. Aurora Cannabis announced that its extraction technology partner, Radiant Technologies, has received its standard processing license from Health Canada. Weekend Unlimited will begin to trade today on the CSC under the symbol POT. Zenabis Global announced that it has entered into a supply agreement with Shoppers Drug Mart. Shoppers may purchase dried marijuana and cannabis oil once Zenabis receives its license to sell oil from the company's medical branded product line. Zenabis branded medical cannabis products will then be sold online at cannabis.shoppersdrugmart.ca, as regulations don't allow the sale of medical cannabis in retail pharmacies. HITI Inc. has entered into a letter of intent with a winner of one of the 25 opportunities to apply for a license to operate a cannabis retail store in Ontario. The lottery was held by the province's Alcohol and Gaming Commission on January 11, 2019. The terms of the letter of intent include, but are not limited to, the acquisition of a minority interest in the winner and the option to acquire a greater interest in the future. Crescita Therapeutics Inc., a Canadian commercial dermatology company, and Tetra Natural Health, a subsidiary of Tetra Bio-Pharma, announced an agreement to develop an enhanced version of Tetra's dermatology portfolio. It will be using Crescita's patented transdermal delivery technologies, multiplexed molecular penetration enhancer, and DuraPeel. The primary active ingredient contained in the product portfolio being reformulated is beta-C, which is known to work on CBD2 receptors. And that's your news for today.
Most interesting story of the day has definitely got to be Namaste, Namaste's palace coup. And
so would
Dollinger,
that be a surprise to Sean? Do you think? I guess it would be, right?
Well, I don't think they asked for his permission.
Right. So what is that? The directors run the company, don't they?
Well, you know, the bottom line is the only person showing as an insider with any stock is Sean. He controls somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 million shares through all of his entities. So if the news was that they removed him from the board of directors, and they don't have the votes.
I don't know if they can't. Can they remove you from the board of directors, or do you have to resign?
They can if, as a result of a special committee called by management to investigate certain claims, the special committee comes back and finds that there was potentially some wrongdoing, then they can make a recommendation to the board of directors that termination for cause occur, which it looks like that's what happened. However, if the single largest control positions or the entire control position, so Sean's the only insider with a big block, nobody else in any of these remaining directors has any stock to speak of, at least that's disclosed on SETI. So the bottom line is Sean could mount a counter coup with supporting shareholders, turf this board of directors, and end up regaining his position and taking control of the company. Now, that is assuming that he is confident in his ability to disprove any allegations that might be coming alongside the, whatever is going on.
They're seeking disgorgement. Jeez,
they're seeking disgorgement.
Hate that word.
Yeah. So, the bottom line is this is the first volley across the bow of the good ship Dollinger, and we'll see what he's able to muster in the way of a defense.
Interesting.
Other than that, we can't really comment without risking sounding like we like.
Yeah, well,
on one side or the other.
For sure, because neutrality, impartiality, whatever you want to say.
The only thing that runs on time around here is the train. And the coffee's too expensive. The food is awful.
Jesus. What are you doing? Hey, I went to a place in Zurich with Pat Bertrand.
Yes.
And I went to see him 10 years ago. And it was a one-of-a-kind restaurant that sold these sausages.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to tell you.
In Zurich?
In Zurich. Like a little spot, one of a kind, right?
In the train station?
Sausage factory. It was delicious. The old,
Yeah.
We're sitting there, have another beer.
My favorite place in Zurich was this lobster restaurant what the hell was it called? It had a funny name. Anyways, if anybody knows.
Pincer?
No. It was called, it's like Henry's or Harry's.
Claw?
No, the Claw. No. Ed, what's going on with the S&P today? Let's talk about
I got a 1 month. I got a 1 day chart here. 1 day, and you know, so that doesn't tell you much except it's moved up.
But the day is up, right?
It's up 18 points. Now look, I'm going to put up a 10-day chart, and I got to tell you, this thing's on a tear, and it continues to go up. I thought we were rounding out here, and we were going to have a bad day today, and it started off bad, and then now we're near the new high. So this is let's see, the 1 month run. Yeah, you know, more green candles. So we had, look at that, the green candles here. 1, 2, 3, a lot of green candles, and little sideways action. Now we're continuing up. It's like stepping in front of a hurricane here if you're thinking of shorting, which I'm always.
Okay, so now fundamentally what's driving this market?
What scares me is that I'm hearing comments like Amazon's warned, Apple's warned, Sony plunged on bad out forecasts.
Samsung, LG.
Look at. Something's changed in the world, and I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a car dealer yesterday in London, and I said, do you sense there's a little change in the world? He said, it's too early to tell, but something's. Is it safe to say or to hypothesize that the S&P and the Dow Jones are no longer accurate measures of real economic activity? Because how can these indicators be going up when all of those companies are warning? And I'll tell you, the easy answer is after that drop off in December, which was one of the steepest on record, the shorts have got to cover. If they start to cover, the shorts are like longs that are getting their ass handed to them. When the longs start to lose, they all pile in and drive it down. Well, now the shorts are all piling in, driving it up. I think it's short-driven.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot of.
Look, there's, you know, it's
like
so
the whole world was short?
No, not the whole world. Roughly half the world. There's two major forces, and they continually fight for investment survival.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah. You know, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll...
Let me write that down here.
The battle for investment survival.
The two forces of good and evil.
You know what? I'm, of course, you know, switching from white to black all the time.
True. I saw you on Friday night.
Saw
or Saturday night. Was it Saturday night
that
that
I
we
seem
did
to be
party?
My own little world?
Well, let's just say that you were funnier than usual.
I can be pretty funny.
Yeah.
I can be pretty funny. Well, usually I'm not even trying. Anyway, so look, I'm saying, you know, and we saw, look at, back to the marijuana space, Canopy growth was up $3 or something at one point. Now it's only up 60, 70 cents. That kind of action makes me a little, you know.
Nervous.
A little nervous. Yeah, you know, if you owned it, if you bought it up die, when you start seeing people on the wrong side of a trade, the more that become on the wrong side of the trade, the fear starts to build. And as the fear builds, it escalates. So fear and greed. Fear and greed.
Two market movers. Two main forces of the market.
There they are.
Fear and greed.
There's that. The white guys are the greed. Well, you know what?
You're not going to try to ascribe a color to either side of good or evil.
No.
That would be racist.
I would say positive and negative.
Positive and negative. Yin and yang. Up and down. In and out.
How about yink and yank?
Yin and yang. Coming up, we've got Geoffrey Benic, the CEO of Aleafia, joining us in studio.
Aleafia Health Inc. is a medical marijuana company operating medicinal cannabis clinic networks. The company also produces cannabis flower and serves patients in Canada. In December 2019, Aleafia Health acquired the medical cannabis company Emblem Corp to expand its clinic network. Aleafia trades on the CVE under the ticker symbol ALEF.
We're going in dark. I'm joined now by Geoffrey Benic, CEO of Aleafia Health. Jeff, welcome back.
Great to be back, James. Thank you for having me.
You bet. That little the video we were running in beforehand. That's quite the state of advanced development since the last time we chatted. What has changed in Aleafia world?
Well, it's exciting times. We're very close to finishing the phase 1 of our retrofit down at our greenhouse in Grimsby. So that's exciting for us. What is also exciting is that the market's starting to really realize the combination of Aleafia and Emblem, and starting to recognize it as a force to reckon with in medical cannabis in the near future.
Right. So the Aleafia and Emblem tie-up is actually well received at the end of the day by the existing shareholders.
Well, I think it's starting to be very well received. I think the share price is starting to indicate that. If you look at Emblem's share price and our share price, they're kind of following in step and in tow, which tells me that it's starting to be very well received.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so apart from that, how's the financial picture building for Aleafia in 2019?
So 2019 is going to be a great year for a number of reasons. Primarily that we're going to capitalize on our 60,000 patients that we have, a network of 40 clinics, and our 100 plus doctors. So we're going to convert that into monetize it and turn it into some really good upside for our shareholders, number one. Number two, we've also started leveraging our data points that we have with medical cannabis. In the past, we monetized about $600,000 worth of revenue from our medical data, but since then we've added Dr. Graham Mary to our group, and he's going to be focusing on becoming a data fellow for us and using our medical data to capitalize it with some studies, which we've just completed one.
Sure. So what's the growing capacity going to be throughout 2019?
So we're going to be about 96,000 kilograms with just the Aleafia grow capacity. When you factor in Emblem, which is one of the largest LP to LP supply agreements with AFRIA, as everyone knows, we're going to be well north of 135,000 kilograms combined.
Wow, that's a lot. How many does 60,000 patients consume in a year?
Well, 60,000 patients consume a lot of cannabis. So just to give everyone some highlight, we script about a gram a day per patient.
Okay.
So wow. Everyone can do the math on that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yes.
What are you going to do to expand continuously globally?
So I think we've made it pretty clear to the market, number one, that we're definitely going to be consolidators. I think we're showing that. But on an international basis, we've just completed a 10% equity stake in Canada Pacific out of Australia. And to us, it's a joint venture, and we have a ROFR of up to 51%. And they're going to get to leverage our platform, which includes our data points, the way we manage clinics, all the technology behind that, and also ultimately cultivation as well, and the strains that we're going to help them cultivate. But the real beauty of that relationship is it's a joint venture. It's something that we like to, the way that we like to conduct business internationally, just because having that local, feet on the street really improves your chances of success.
Sure. Sure, and what is the status of cannabis laws in Australia currently?
So they've finally starting to lighten up on them, and medical cannabis now is and when I say cannabis, I'm saying THC as well as CBD is now available in Australia. And we're starting to see that in other markets as well, which we've got markers on. You're going to be probably hearing about a couple more announcements in the very near future in other European markets that we're getting involved with and trying to stay on top of, as we've been invited to many of these jurisdictions because of our business model.
Interesting. Okay, so you also been producing cannabis for CanTrust, which to me must sort of feel like a validation of at least your minimum quality, because CanTrust has been very focused on quality and sets a pretty high bar.
So we have a tremendous, mutually respectful relationship with the folks at CanTrust. They continue to provide us our genetics, and we continue to show them, grow after grow, that we can continue to grow a standardized product, which is what they are used to doing. Everyone knows that Lucas Escott is probably one of the top cultivators, if not the top cultivator in Canada from his Metrum days. But nonetheless, we continue to put out a great standardized product time after time, and I think CanTrust recognizes that, and that's why they rewarded us with a 15,000 kilogram supply agreement that we're going to fulfill.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then earlier in January you announced that you'd completed phase 1 construction and retrofitting of your Niagara greenhouse. That sounds like it might be somewhat close to CanTrust.
So we are a stone throw away from CanTrust, very close, and a very stone. Our next door neighbor actually is up HIP.
Oh, okay.
So we've developed great relationships, great working relationships. We always get together and talk about sharing workforces, et cetera, and I got to tell you one thing about being in the cannabis industry is that we're very, very, we like to work collectively together and help each other out.
No kidding. That's what cannabis does, is it brings on the cooperation. Is there anything on the horizon in terms of the laws governing the sale of cannabis on the retail side in Canada that represent risk to you?
Well, everyone knows that the laws and regulations change all the time, so we've been staying on top of them and focusing on trying to find all the good stuff that can come out of it, and I can tell you that we work hard with with whatever means we have to try to stay on top of it and make it a positive experience for our patients and our shareholders.
Okay, well that's a great update, Jeff. We're going to leave it there for now. I'll come back to you soon. Up next, today's question of the day. Which city has more medicinal dispensaries than Starbucks?
We know medical marijuana took the U.S. by storm. When states started passing laws to allow for medicinal use, dispensaries popped up in cannabis-friendly places, available for an acre a pane with an appropriate doctor's note. But in some states, you couldn't wander far without tripping over a dispensary. So here's your question of the day. Which city has more medical marijuana dispensaries than Starbucks locations? Is it A, Denver, B, Chicago, C, Portland, or D, San Francisco? The answer's coming up later on in the show.
Hey, I'm joined now by Colin Fisher. He's the CEO of StableView Asset Management. Again, Colin, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Have you been watching what's going on in the cannabis world?
A little bit.
And does it
more of a spectator than participant?
Okay. Does it make you envious as a Canadian technology investor?
I mean, you'd be stupid not to be. I mean, the cannabis space has sucked a ton of dough out of the capital markets. It's interesting. Vena Solutions, one of our core holdings, recently raised $115 million US, but it was all private US equity funds that came in. Mm-hmm. Probably one of the preeminent Canadian tech plays just got stolen under our nose. More value will be created with that company than 70 or 80 different cannabis companies that are currently being funded.
Really?
But, easy, without even breaking a sweat.
Okay, so tell me how will that happen?
Well, it's just that there's a lot of, the classic, I'm just being shifted.
We just take liberties with our guests here.
Poltergeist. There are going to be a lot of winners in the cannabis space.
Right.
But not unlike the internet of 2000, the dot bomb of 2000, there's very few that are going to survive the overall hype and hubbubaloo that's going to go on. So, a friend of mine calls it the dot bong.
Dot bong. Ooh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That will get some traction.
I think it will get some traction. And so, from my mind's eye, I think that if you look at the amount of money that's being put into this space, there's so many companies that have to backfill the valuation, right? Mm-hmm. You and I have had conversations about this, the utilization of the capital markets to raise a ton of dough and then to backfill the valuation by building an actually good company. The problem is that we are doing this day in and day out in the technology space, but a lot of it's in the private world. And there is a massive funding gap that we constantly lament in Canada. We see the superclusters being built across Canada. The government keeps trying to get involved. There's all this money that's being thrown at it from the government, but yet they don't understand the underlying problem is that when you have, for example, flow-through shares, and flow-through shares that you can donate to a charity, and you've created this taxation arbitrage opportunity. Well, how do you get money out of these things if everything we're doing is taking risk out of, or just has to have a story, right? So when you have a real company like Avena Solutions that gets $115 million from US, and you see it in Difference Capital comes out, and the Weckerly on the Globe and Mail and says, we all these, I like the, I didn't make up this expression, but it says, success has many fathers, failure is an orphan, right? Everybody comes out and says, hey, we invested, we were the primary investor, this is us. And so you look at these companies, you go, am I jealous that money, to your original, am I jealous? It's not so much jealous as sad.
Right.
Sad that we have all of these companies right now that are building great wealth and employing a ton of people and are going to be the next generation of category killers in technology, and we're just letting them slip out the back doors at pennies on the dollar.
Right.
That's why we do that tech event, that you had me on for our StableView tech event. So
So the way the Canadian capital markets are sort of subsidized on a favored basis by according to certain industries, sort of makes us an incubator for U.S. opportunistic
100%.
accumulators.
One of the things we're about to launch is a publicly traded company that's going to help fill that funding gap in Canada. I think there's a lot of people that are looking for a vehicle that will allow you to get access to both the private and the public space. I'm not ready to announce it just yet, but it's a massive funding gap. But the problem is that we constantly are having people come in and try to solve the problem with artifice. It has to come from the capital markets. We have to solve our own problems. We're not unless we want to be a nanny state of capital markets where everyone has to come in and, the flow through was originally there to help get it into a really risky area. Well, it's gone completely the other way to the point where there's zero risk now. So you can take the worst project on the planet, but if it's flow through eligible and you can then dump the shares to a charity and create this trade, you've got a ton of dough that will go into that. It makes sense if you have that as a tax problem. But what it does do is it dislocates the flow of capital into those things that are good companies or bad companies. So you can take, a heaping pile of feces of a mining project, and it will get a ton of dough. Whereas, because of the flow through and the tax arbitrage that you're able to play. But in the same instance, we can't get money to go to Avena Solutions that's going to be a preeminent category killer, and we've just let it walk out the back door, and everyone was celebrating this. And I'm happy for the management team, but I'm sad for the capital markets. I'm sad for the bigger guys that aren't able to see this deal flow because they're constantly lamenting, we don't see this stuff. Well, it's because we don't finance it. Right. And if you don't finance, you don't grow it. So
tell me about Vena. What does Vena Solutions do?
So corporate performance management. So basically what they do is when you are doing budgeting or planning, or some people call it business performance management. And so what they've essentially done is they take all of the Excel spreadsheets that a company uses for planning that gets thrown across the corporation one end to the other. And Excel has one critical flaw. It's not auditable. So if you screw up a cell, no one knows. If I need you to do these 10 cells or these 10 worksheets before somebody else can do their work, then what you find is that they're unable, there's no workflow capability in Excel, there's no ability to audit. And so what this does is it took Excel and made it a front-end system, because everyone understands Excel. A lot of businesses kept trying to replace Excel. They said, use the interface. They put a database that maps into the Excel and allows it to say, you get these 10, and we put a workflow in it, and then Jane has to do her stuff, and then they can work with that. And it keeps going on. And then every time a change happens, there's an audit report. So the auditor can go in and see exactly what's happening.
So it's blockchain.
You're looking for me to flip this table and pound you into the fucking ground, aren't you?
Whoa! Hey, I always said blockchain was nothing more or less than the next iteration of Excel with certain features that allowed it to be auditable. So to hear this from the other direction, to me is...
but blockchain, but it,
blockchain is...
Okay, first off, distributed ledgers have been around for a long time. It's not that new. The idea of linking them and making sure that there's a single source of truth that is unhackable is the primary difference between a distributed ledger and blockchain. It may seem like a semantic, but it's an incredibly powerful difference. The problem is, how do we replicate that and make it efficient, different types of proof of work or proof of authority or proof of stake? What are the methodologies for allowing those who are going to use that? That concept is incredibly powerful, but there's all of this extra noise that went on top of it. The concept of tokenization, which is cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin and this and that and the other thing. We as two people you've probably used tokens since you were a young child, and I use tokens all the time, and it's called a coat check. Right, so the concept of tokenization, so it's proof of ownership. Right. So I don't want your jacket and you don't want my jacket. We're two different heights, different length of arms. We want what we want. So we use the tokenization. So that concept is also not new, but the application of it with the ledger that is now immutable becomes a much more interesting concept. The user interface, which is the wallet. The wallet right now is in my opinion is not a feature. It's a bug. They're horrible. That's where you had I think Parity Wallet was the one that crashed, and 250 million of Bitcoin. Or was it Ether? I think it was Ether. So that which it is very interesting, but it's a subtle problem. But what you're referring to is not a blockchain thing.
Right.
You and I had this debate, and we'll have to beat each other up again on it another day.
Yeah, no. But getting back to Vena Solutions, they've taken Excel and created a
workflow around it. They created a database behind it, and they created the ability for it to become auditable. So those are some of the key preliminary concepts. But a lot of other companies that tried to replace Excel, they tried to pull Excel out. Well, you have to understand the ability for people to utilize Excel, the amount of knowledge, how many people know how to use Excel, how many skilled people are out there. So your total cost of ownership, if you have to train someone up on a very particular specific piece of software, and they don't know how, and then you lose that person. So you've put $40,000 to train that person off, and off they go, and now somebody else, you got to constantly, but Excel, everyone knows how to use. So the ability to utilize, the adoption of it is critical. So, I think these are the types of things, like the total cost of ownership and utilization and adoption of software is another whole element, which is part of understanding technology. Like, one of the reasons Vena has done so well is they're not trying to push a rock uphill, because they have a massive user base of all these people who have Excel spreadsheet, and now they're like, whoa, you can augment that which we have already built, and you can make it auditable, and all our workflows and all our systems stay in place, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's why the adoption curve has been so phenomenal with these guys, and their rate of success has been so great. But here we are. I remember when we first invested in, I was at an investment conference, and I thought, oh my God, this is one of the greatest inventions of all time. This is like literally a fantastic company. I called up the investment banker the next day and I said, I want to lead this deal. Well, no one, I thought for sure I'd be like the clamoring. No one. Crickets everywhere. So that's when I realized, wow, there's just this gargantuan problem in the investment mind. First off, the understanding. And then here we are years later, you know, the revenues have grown significantly. The company is well run, and we let 2 U.S. firms come in and steal this company. They're not bad companies. I don't blame the Americans. I blame us for not financing the company.
Yeah.
So right now we have a orgiastic frenzy funding weed companies. But I would submit to you, you know, going back to another time I was here, is that, you know, if you have LeBron James playing 50 other LeBron Jameses, you have a chaotic environment. Pick a LeBron James that's going to win. It's very difficult. But if you have LeBron James playing you and I, it's pretty easy to pick. And so the difference between chaos and disruption is a LeBron James playing you and I is disruption. A LeBron James playing a bunch of other LeBron James is chaos, right?
That's a great analogy, actually. Okay, so how do we solve this problem?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're looking to put this publicly traded company vehicle, because I think what you need to do is create an environment that money can be in a supportive environment. So, you know, but writ large, we don't have it right now in our DNA. We have a bunch of, you know, the old concept of required but not sufficient. We have a few of the things that are required, but we just don't have the sufficient ecosystem right now. You know, there was an article in the Globe saying the other day that there was a slugfest amongst the banks to lend money to tech companies. And I'm like, that is the most disingenuous article of all time. So that's like saying, imagine you take a Brad Pitt and a Halle Berry, and they have all this attention being thrown at them. And now all of a sudden you've added 3 more people, or 6 more people, or 10 more people. It's just being thrown to the same people, all right? They're already getting the attention. The companies that they are purporting to potentially put financing in front of, and maybe it brings the interest rates down a few points on the type of debt that's being lent to them. But the vast majority, the unwashed masses of all our tech, is not getting these lineups. So the best of the best may get a little bit of a better deal, but that doesn't mean, like, slugging it out over the same well-known hot companies that are doing well is not some big slugfest. That's not, and it's not for sure changing the infrastructure and the landscape of tech in Canada. So yeah, so anyway, you know, one of these days I should actually talk about. Do you want to hear a company I actually like in the public markets?
Tell me,
because we never talk about that stuff. One of my companies is selling assets into another publicly company called iLookabout.
Yeah.
So iLookabout is a publicly traded company.
Yeah, I think we've had them on the show, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Trying to remember what they do.
So they do, at the end of it, what they currently do is they create a pricing or valuation for the purposes of primarily MPAC, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, to create a price upon which they will do taxation. So they will let municipalities know whether you're undercharging or overcharging. If you're overcharging, you're creating a potential liability in the future. If you're undercharging, then you're losing revenues at present time. So they're in the process of making an acquisition of assets from a company called Clarosity. What they do is they're in the US and they do pricing upon which other companies then do provide a service. So lending, so they'll lend, they'll say, okay, so we'll lend, we'll give you
based
a mortgage.
On a valuation.
Give a valuation. So once you have that valuation, then you can provide a whole bunch of different services. In the case of iLookabout, they do it for the purposes of taxation. For the case of Clarosity, they do it for companies like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, USDA, large corporations. And so they provide either insurance product or lending against it, all of those types of services. So the combined company is going to be a very efficient platform across. It also allows iLookabout to expand into the US very quickly. Gary Yeoman founded Altus, which is $1 billion company, so AIF. He also was the founding investor in Real Matters. And so this is a guy with deep industry expertise. He's built or helped found or build billion-dollar companies in the past. And I'm always of the opinion, if you built a billion-dollar company, the chances of being able to build another one is much higher.
Right.
So, so I think, and the other thing too is if you do any analysis on the two companies, because they're public and you take the share count and all that stuff, I look about post-acquisition will be trading at about 0.5 EV to revenue for the next 12 months. So very, very good valuation. The deal's built to be accretive to anybody, both buying now or buying in the future, and for all participants in the deal. So it's a good deal. So that would be one of the types of companies where, and going, you know, one of the things that's interesting, they are building a blockchain solution for information in the real estate industry. So real estate is a very low tech, data is tough to get. It's hard to know where it's coming from. So one of the things they have is what's called an AVM, which is an automated valuation model. Okay. But if you get this data from a whole group of sources, and let's say downtown Toronto, you're using an AVM, no humans look at it. And you could say, okay, the data is strong, so we say we have confidence in that data at 95%. Okay. You could say, okay, fine, we're going to use the AVM. But at some point in time, let's say now you're in Newton Brook, Ontario, is that maybe only 50% confidence level on that data. So maybe you go, okay, AVM is not what we're going to use. So Clarosity, for example, has what are called hybrid solutions. So that's half human, half technology, and the combination of the two makes sure that they provide a very accurate solution. So they're in the process of actually creating a data integrity or confidence level for their products across the board, but they'll have AVMs, hybrid, they'll have traditional, and then they have the tax component. And so between all of those components, because one of the things, for example, that Clarosity does is it provides valuation. So let's say you're a portfolio manager and you have a large swath of properties, and what you want to do is test throughout. So you'll do sampling to make sure that the valuation of that property, of that portfolio, can be relied upon. When they're doing some of those samplings, one of the other things, the second biggest cost next to if you have mortgage on it, is your property tax. Right. So then you could be doing a secondary analysis to make sure, oh, are we paying too much, are we paying too little? Right. Should we be making appraisals against this? So the Venn diagram of these two companies coming together in terms of both cross-selling and that which their clients need is almost 100%. So it's a very interesting deal. And you know, I've never come on and actually spoken about a stock. I thought maybe one day I would.
This is the day.
Yeah,
all right. Well, that's awesome, Colin. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now. Sounds like we could probably do a show around your investment activity. I think we'll have that discussion next. Okay. Anyways, thanks for joining me today. And now you probably want to know what the answer to the trivia question is. Well, here it is.
So which city has more medical marijuana dispensaries than Starbucks? The answer is A, Denver. In fact, if that's not enough to blow your mind, Denver actually has more dispensaries than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. A company called My420 Tours counted them. In 2018, they found a total of 364 recreational and medical dispensaries in the city versus 111 combined Starbucks and McDonald's. The state of Colorado has dispensaries outweighing the two fast food chains by more than 2 to 1.
Denver, Colorado, who would have thought? More dispensaries than Starbucks.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit.
You didn't know?
Yeah, I do. I know now. That's all that matters.
How about Kronos breaking $30 today? Woo! Boy, see?
Listen,
what are we going to do? It's time to go short?
Well, it's getting there.
Pull up a chart of Kronos Group. I want to see how far outside of the Bollinger Bands in the 3-month window it is, because what kind of technical signals are there being generated right now to tell you to go short Kronos, Ed? That's what I want to know.
One of the problems with Kronos is it trades on Toronto, and therefore you need to get a borrow. Okay, so that means you got to borrow it, and then they're going to say, well, pretty hot demand here on oil Chrono, so they're going to say, we're going to stick it to you for 100% borrow. So if you're short for a year, you got to pay 100% of the borrow.
You got no Bollinger Bands.
Okay, not on this one. You gonna put them on here?
Yes, I do. I got to learn
to do this shit. You know, there's a lot of tools here to use, and I'm not using them.
That's a good point.
Good point, Eddie. Oh,
yeah, I've got Bollinger Bands here, but not on that. So what is the CRON?
Okay, so we hit 33, and now we're 29.90.
You know,
yeah, I'd say we're getting damn close. Now, how would I do this? Let me, you know what? What's his name over here from the control tower? Let's get the control guys in here right now. What are you guys doing in there anyway?
Control is being uncooperative in that request, Edward.
Here comes.
I don't imagine you guys can see my NDI in there on my laptop because I have.
Nobody gives a shit about your NDI.
Because if you look at the Bollinger Band here, Ed, look at this.
Oh, you got Bollinger Bands.
It's well outside of the Bollinger Band, all the way up.
Yeah, but I want to see. Yeah, what I want to see is when the candle is completely out of the Bollinger Band.
That's the time.
That tells you that you've got this.
Okay, well, this candle is completely out of the Bollinger Band. Today's,
let's see,
surged up to $32 today. That's right outside of the ball.
It's,
Look, on the volume's at an all-time high.
And when it was up over here,
I don't know.
Hey, well,
can you see that?
Well, if you could get me out with Bollinger Bands, I like to have some Bollinger Bands. How come I don't have Bollinger Bands?
We'll work on that, Ed.
Did you ever see that commercial about the guy? He's in the hospital getting some operation, and he says, somebody's walking by and says, does that man have insurance? Insurance? He doesn't need insurance. He's got money coming out of the wazoo. And he's lying on the gurney, you know, his butt up in the air.
Oh,
money coming out of the wazoo. How
Did he have money coming out of the wazoo?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Fascinating. So one of our members, R. Mary, wants us to check Radiant Technologies. Radiant was one of the high traders today, volume leaders in the market.
Really? What's the symbol?
And they're on the show tomorrow. The symbol, Ed. Geez, you have to ask such horribly pertinent questions.
RHT? No, that's not. Okay. Oh, I can't put the chart up unless I know the symbol. That's all I got to tell you.
That's Radiant Technologies is RTI on the TSX Venture. So it's up 35% today on volume of 5,700,000 shares.
RTI on the Venture?
Yes. Up 37% today. Wow. My goodness.
What? There had to be an announcement.
I did see a press release earlier. Let's see, what did the press release say? Boy, we're just so on top of things.
Yeah, we got this all figured out.
Yeah. CDAR.
Yeah, that's a big move.
View.
5.7 million shares, it looks like, at least.
Yeah. That's
so there's this thing gap in here. They got.
So they announced today that they'd received their standard processing license from Health Canada.
What are they processing?
Well, I would suggest it's probably cannabis. Wasn't in our newsfeed though, was it? No.
That's one that got away.
Yeah, one that escaped. So anyways, they are. Announced it received its standard processing license from Health Canada under the new Cannabis Act regulations.
Okay.
Receipt of the standard processing license permits Radiant to legally possess, sell, and distribute cannabis materials to other federal cannabis license holders. Processing of cannabis biomass in order to extract cannabinoids, including CBD and THC, will now begin at Radiant's recently expanded manufacturing facility in Edmonton. Now, don't forget, Radiant is a portfolio holding of Aurora Technology, or Aurora Cannabis.
This thing has got at least a couple 100 million shares outstanding, so...
Yeah, so a 37% move indicates...
Yeah, this thing's 300 million market cap now, as of today. Not yesterday, today.
That's a big move.
That's a big boy.
That's big.
That's the big boy.
That's big.
That's
big. Campo Consulting says we should have Tinley Beverage on for an interview. Well, we've tried twice.
Yeah.
They canceled once, they canceled twice, and
three times
a lady. Anyways, why no one mention Aurora Partners? Well, we do talk about Aurora Partners.
Yeah.
Choom. Yeah, actually. So Mr. Green Thumbs 420, another regular viewer here.
is an Aurora partner. I wonder what their stock's doing. We haven't looked at CHUM in a while. It's run by my good friend Chris Bogart, who I've known for decades.
What's the ticker?
CHOO.
Chu.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
And what exchange? Is that the Venture?
Yep. No, CSE.
Down a penny on to 44.
Okay.
Now this I'm just looking at the chart again. No prejudice here. I'm just it's going sideways. This really hasn't participated in this last.
Yeah. You know, Ed, I'm pretty sure all their shareholders would agree.
Yeah. Well, if I was a shareholder, I would agree.
Yeah. Let's.
And this is a hot market. For look at Chiron.
Yeah.
Chiron.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We had the guy. Ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes,
we are a fountain of useful information.
Not useless information.
Not useless information.
But see, useful, useless.
Well, useful means full of use. We need to come up with a new term. I think we'll call it usum.
Usum.
Meaning there is some use to this information, but it's not full of use. Nor is it useless. It's usum.
Because they use it only sometimes.
Well, there's some information that's usable.
Some information.
Right. That's like our show is usum.
Okay, let's take a look at Chiron's been hot.
Whoa! Right? Chiron has been red hot.
Let's take a look.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a look.
Chiron has big things happening.
Do they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 2019, well, Chiron A is, in fact, the best...
CNX, right?
No. Chiron is on the TSX Venture, KHRN. Chiron is, in fact, the most well-positioned company in Latin America, in my opinion, because they are well-entrenched in Colombia, they are well-established in Mexico, and they are actively developing markets in Chile, Peru, Argentina, Brazil. So, I mean, there's nobody who's really pulled out from the pack yet in terms of Latin America, but looking at the chart here on Chiron, you had it up, there it is.
There it is, yeah. And look at big action from $1.60 to $3.13 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading days. That candle's not a very good, that's a candle that, just spin it here.
Oh, you're gonna draw on it.
This candle, this red one.
Yeah.
That's a negative candle. Today, rallied right back, but we may get a little correction here. We may get a little correction and maybe a good entry point.
Yeah.
Obviously, the lower you can buy something that you like, the better off you are.
The better the price.
Yeah.
So, Kronos Group passed through $30 today in the Canadian market.
33, I think it got to it. 32.50.
32, yeah. Do you know where that stock was trading a year ago?
Probably between $5 and $10.
It opened on February 5th, 2018, it opened at $5.99.
What did I say? Between 5 and 10?
Yeah.
Is $5.99 between 5 and 10?
Yes.
I get no acknowledgement?
Well, that's not really the point here.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, in 1 year, this company has increased in value
6 times.
600%.
Yeah, 6 times. That's a 6-bagger.
So when I look at Chiron, relative to Kronos, Chiron, I believe, will have the global conglomerate billion-dollar moment in Latin America. And when that happens, Katie, bar the damn door.
Well, it'll be a $10 stock.
Well,
no, maybe not 10.
We can't say that exactly.
No, but on the same 6 times, the $1 would be $6. It's already tripled.
Right.
But you know what? Let's not forget, folks, that Kronos got an injection of some serious loot.
$2.6 billion.
Big money.
Big dollars.
I'm talking big money.
Big money.
Not this small potato shit.
Hey, we're going to talk to Dmitry in just a second, but first this. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. Joined now by Dmitry Zaytsev. Dmitry, welcome back.
Happy to be here, James.
Dmitry, you have a less than rosy outlook on upcoming financials that are going to be released starting very quickly here. Give us an overview of what you're thinking.
Yeah, so just big picture, I don't know if it's less rosy, but I think it's good to be realistic about what the expectations are from analysts, what the expectations are from investors, and what the numbers are that are actually coming out. So on this first slide, just to remind everyone, share prices go up and down, but the market capitalization of a lot of these firms has rallied significantly. So I have the top 8 cannabis firms by market cap here that are based in Canada. So they have
those numbers are in the billions on the left?
So it's in the millions, but it's 20, yes. So it's 20 billion, for example, if you're looking on the fourth line there.
Interesting. So weed's well up above 20 billion.
Yeah, and so some of the deals here haven't gone through yet. So it's as deals close and shares are issued.
Can we get that chart up again, please? Thank you. Okay, so Tilray's 25 billion. Oh, that's when it was at $300 a share.
Yeah, this is in Canadian dollars. Right?
Okay.
So this is just data I pulled from Bloomberg, right? And it's just layest data. But we're going to talk a little bit about what we think the Canadian market is worth, and once again, underscoring why we want to be in the U.S. names, in my opinion, longer term.
Okay.
So I think a lot of these names in Canada, they're good for trading, but the U.S. is where you're going to find actual fundamental value. So what I did was I looked at some OCS order numbers just to get an idea. So a little chart I have here or table on the right shows the October and November revenue numbers for all of Canada, and then you have the revenue numbers right there for 11.7, 10.1, which are the OCS numbers. And I have a rough estimate of how many orders were placed on the OCS during that time. And from that, we can glean sort of a little metric there of around $70 per purchase. So that's what each individual order on average clocked in at.
Okay. So $48 million was for the month of...
it's 43 for the month of October, so which was only 2 weeks of legalization.
Right. And $54 million was the total sales across just Ontario.
No. So just to explain, all of Canada. All of Canada for rec.
Okay.
All of Canada for rec, according to StatScan. According to StatScan, I'm getting these numbers from StatScan, and there's a link below to the story where I'm pulling all these numbers from. So where does that really lead us? So looking on the next slide, you can build it out. So I just said, okay, we have 43 and 54 million. December, the OCS, the sales look like they kind of decelerated a little bit, but maybe more stores open in some other areas, but also people smoke less in the winter, but it's Christmas. So anyway, 150. So let's say 150 million revenue for Q4 of 2018, calendar Q4. And so what I then did is I said, okay, 60% of that is going to be captured by the LPs. I think that's generous, given they're selling for $4, $5, $6, and then a lot of this is excise tax in the margin for the actual retailer. And so all of the LPs are competing for $90 million or so in Q4 of revenue. And so the next table below that shows the calendar Q3 revenues, and then what the analysts project for Q4 revenues, and the high, mean, and the low of that. So some of those numbers, I couldn't get, or whatever.
So the far right column is the analyst expectation?
So just the first column where it says CY Q3 is their calendar, or latest Q3 2018 revenue number. So this is just, hey, before rec, sort of, to give you an idea. And obviously different companies have different year ends, and they all have their different quarters that start at different times. But anyway, so what the key column to be paying attention to is the one that I have in gray, and which just shows the delta between the average analyst consensus estimate and what the companies did in Q3. And so I'm trying to sort of square the $90 million number and this number. So mind you, some of these estimates, they include February and January data for 3 companies that I left notes there, but there's clearly a disconnect. And these are just the top 8 firms. It doesn't include private retailers. It doesn't include the multitude of other smaller LPs like Supreme or Vivo or.
This doesn't include medical numbers, I guess.
No, it doesn't. So I'm keeping it really simple. So I'm saying, hey, we're gonna just assume they did the exact same run rate in Q4 as Q3 because that's a very complex number to try and project if you're gonna try and estimate medical sales, international sales, new acquisition sales, and all that kind of stuff. But it's just to get a rough idea, right?
Okay, so you're telling me that the correlation to analyst estimates versus companies' projections is skewed to the downside?
So no, I'm saying that the actual numbers that have come out so far indicate only about $90 to $100 million of actual wholesale LP sales from the rec market in Canada. And analysts, roughly, it's around 150 million that they're projecting, right? That sales are going to increase from the last quarter of these LPs on average.
Okay. So let's take Aurora, for example, projecting $50 to $55 million. And that constitutes a huge increase over Q4, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So do you think are you suggesting that Aurora, that there's a disconnect between the available amount of cash to split up versus what companies are projecting?
Market share, I guess you would say, and yes, but I think Aurora is one of the names that actually will hit their numbers. So the 50 to 55, I think they could probably get there. And if you think about it, their last quarter, they had around $30 million of revenue. So if they increase their revenue by 20 to 25 million, and there's about $100 million pie to split, they're getting about 20% or so market share across Canada, which isn't crazy, and especially since San Rafael and some of their MedRelief acquired brands were getting very good reviews, and they also said something about OCS being 30%. They had 30% market share on the website. Could be very positive, and I think they wouldn't give this kind of guidance if they weren't going to hit it and maybe exceed it.
Interesting. So where do you see that taking the whole Canadian space for the rest of fiscal 2019?
Yeah, so I think the Canadian space generally, there's a lot of short covering, there's a lot of euphoria. I feel like a lot of the people that exited their positions in December and just went all cash, they're seeing 5-10% day over day moves, and they're getting FOMO. They want to make money too, and they're getting in. And
fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, yeah. And they're just jumping in, and they're pushing this back up. And some of these names, they're starting to inch up to what they were pre-legalization, when there was really a lot of hysteria. But I would argue that these sales may cool things down a bit. So you're not going to go as low, I think, as December, especially if markets hold and all this. But you might have a little bit of a cooling down period where, maybe some names will provide some opportunities.
Sure. So from your perspective as an options trader, where do the opportunities lie in that outlook?
So actually, something I've done today was I bought some puts on Cronos. So nothing against the company or anything like that. It's just it's one of those things that has gone parabolic right now. So the price changes and the percentage gains have increased at a shorter and shorter period. So usually
higher highs, higher lows in a compressed time frame.
Yeah. So for it to gain 50%, the period has halved. So if the first time it gained 50%, let's say since December, it took them maybe 2 months. Now, more recently, it took them about 3 weeks to do that again and again. And so now you're at this point where I think some kind of break of that could be imminent. But I'm not risking a ton of money on that kind of trade. And I could be wrong. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think the premiums were pretty fair for me to get into that trade.
Okay, so what about in the other names like Aurora, Canopy, Freya? Are you doing anything on the option side there?
Yeah, I haven't touched anything there. I had some covered calls that I wrote on Aphria before, and so those are probably like the shares I got delivered from my put. Remember, I wrote the put, I got delivered, I held these shares, and I wrote a covered call. I've been writing incrementally covered calls on it, and so now I'm just going to wait for that to expire, and my shares get taken away, and I got premium on the way down, premium on the way up. And the cycle continues.
Best of both worlds.
Well, you hope so, yeah.
Very cool. All right, so you were saying that you think that the U.S. companies are more likely to deliver actual good fundamentals on the balance sheet and in earnings?
On the revenue side, I think no one's looking at earnings right now. No one cares about any of this stuff. What everyone really cares about is revenues. Revenues, market share, because once you have a defensible market share, it proves that consumers are going to your brands and that you have your shit together and you can execute. Because everyone, like especially with the MSOs in the US, like a lot of them, as of the last couple of quarters, don't even have any revenue. And so it's really a show me story where you know, some of these companies could easily have a $200, $300, $400 million run rate within a year or so. And that's a very impressive number. And I also think generally, the longer it takes for the U.S. to open up federally in terms of the States Act or anything else, it actually allows more of these MSOs to grab more licenses and more prime locations because the Canadian names can't participate. So it's actually, I think it's in their interest to actually not open things up. It's in the U.S. name's interest to not open things up for the next year or two.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's leave it there for now. That's a great perspective. And of course, Dmitry, we'll have you back again very soon, but lots of food for thought there. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, James.
Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. If you were an investor in cryptocurrency called Quadriga CX, you are pulling your hair out, literally right now. Why? Because apparently, Canada's largest exchange, the CEO, Gerald Cotton, has apparently died last December.
Did he die, though? Have they identified the body? Because maybe this is a ruse.
Well, it's always a delicate matter to allege somebody's...
Isn't that funny, eh? He dies and nobody can get their $100 million worth of currency?
Well, so he was 30 years old and he died in India last December from complications associated with Crohn's disease.
Oh, Jesus. That's not fun, apparently. I wouldn't know. Crohn's disease.
Well, no, everybody I know who's had Crohn's disease has a challenging life. But interestingly enough, the guy died and nobody knows his password and apparently they need his password to release $250 million in cash and cryptocurrency held in its cold storage.
Why cold storage?
Oh, because they don't want it to get warm.
Is it meat?
It's not meat. It's ether. In fact, they named a crystal.
I mean either.
I mean, neither. This is the thing. Another case where the immutable nature of cryptocurrency
ain't so immutable.
It's not. It's
maybe
it's mutable. It's just been muted.
Yeah.
So I would say to the investors into cryptocurrencies that you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You know, moment frozen in time.
What we should do?
What?
We should have, you know how they have on talk shows, they have they say to the audience, clap?
Yeah.
Or applause or laugh.
Laugh?
We should have one of those things, and whenever we say something funny that we think is funny, play that laughing.
Like Jim Cramer on CNBC, have a laugh button.
No, but make it look professional so then maybe people will say, well, if everybody's laughing, why aren't I laughing? They'll start laughing too.
Well, you know the greatest cause of laughter?
Is other people laughing.
Is hearing somebody else's laughing.
What did I just say?
You said other people's laughing.
Well,
I just thought I'd tidy up the grammar a bit.
Okay. Okay. I see where you're going.
You know,
I see where you're going with this. Okay.
You know that. You know, I
see this gun I have over here.
Gun. What are you, American? Or you're from Toronto?
If my name was Jay, I could be Jay and the Americans.
Jason. Anyways, enough of that nonsense.
So we want to talk to some of our followers today?
I thought that I'd say that we're pleased to see that so many of you are back again. Javante Music suggests the applause button would be good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Richie Rich. Oh, man. Anyways, it's not meat, it's you. This is from Brandon Colwell, is in attendance in the chat room today.
It's not meat?
It's not meat, it's you.
Like
That's a good one.
But
That's a good one.
What if he wrote it EWE?
It's not weed. It's you.
It's not weed. It's you, like a U.
Ah,
There you go. Hey, that's meat. Yeah,
that's meat. That's wool. You don't eat wool, do you? And what do sheep eat?
Sheepy.
Sheep eat.
Sheepy.
Sheep eat grass.
Sheep eat.
So why don't they look like cows and rabbits?
Yeah. Well, maybe maybe they all come from the same critter.
There's a correlation there.
Grass eater.
Grass eater. Honorable grass eater.
Apparently, the Super Bowl was a bit of a yawn.
Oh, here he comes.
Lowest scoring
Watch
Super
out,
Bowl
boy, he'll
of all
chew
time,
you
and
up.
they promoted this thing, and it was.
Dog's breakfast?
Yeah.
Wasted time?
Yeah.
I've forgotten already. What is a Super Goal again?
I don't know.
Super Goal? Is it Super Goal or Super Bowl?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. It sounds like cereal. Superbole. Superbly.
Superbly.
Not hyperbole.
Not hyperbole.
A superbly.
I like words that, where it looks like it could be, they're like BOLE could be bowl.
Yeah.
And it could be bowly. Purportedly.
That's interesting, Ed, but let's talk
How do you
about
say that bowl when you were in a restaurant? Is it poke or poke?
Pokemon.
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 Oh, so.
Woo! You know what, Ed? It's time to talk to the water cooler.
All right, Ed, have you seen my cap around? I've got a bit of a bad hair day going on today.
You certainly do have a bad hair day.
I know, it's rough, mate.
The only cap I ever concern myself with is market cap.
What's a market cap?
Well, cap stands for capitalization.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the show, you've seen us use that term all the time.
I never know what it means.
Okay, well, it's a useful tool to compare similar companies. You multiply the number of shares in the company by the price, and you get a value. Then you do the same for the company B, and you get another value. Now, if they're kind of like the same size in terms of revenues and earnings, the market cap should be roughly the same. Wouldn't that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But sometimes there's an anomaly. There's a reason. There's a discrepancy between one market cap versus the other. Okay. And so you'd look at, say, well, why is this company trading for a much cheaper market value compared to the other one?
So could that be just because the other company's just got a worse product, or just?
Could be a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But if you're into a new area like the marijuana space, all things considered, you'd think companies that have sort of the same acreage, the same, and you check off the list, you'd think that they should be the same market caps. Another thing you might want to look at, if the market cap is crazily abnormal, like $1 billion, and they don't have much, you'd say, well, maybe it's a stock to short. We talked about short selling before.
Yeah. So how does short selling interact with the market cap then?
Well, you want to find something that's got an outrageous market cap, and you might say this shouldn't be trading for this value. Yeah. It's just too much for what stage they're at.
Oh, okay.
So
market cap isn't always indicative of how valuable the company is. It can be overinflated.
It can be extremely overinflated, and that's what you look for. And in new industries, there's companies that have no earnings, and they have ridiculous market caps. So hence the short sellers step in.
So market cap in general, can companies be vastly undervalued on their market cap?
If they're absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no real relationship when there's dramatic sell-offs. Like we saw in December, it was one of the worst sell-offs since the Great Depression, almost 90 years, 95, whatever. And so when you see that type of thing happen, and you look at the market cap and say, this is ridiculous, you're able to steal this company. But you can't just look at the price per share, because you don't know how many shares there are. So if there's 1 billion shares and it's trading at $1, that's different than if a company has 100 million shares and it's trading at $1. One means it's 10 times more than the other.
Okay.
10 times as many shares, but the same price.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to look at that total value to get an idea of what the market is.
Okay. And does market cap does that have any impact on what kind of stock exchange you trade on? Do certain exchanges need certain market caps?
Yeah, certainly. Like if you want to get on the New York Stock Exchange, they may say the minimum market cap to be on this exchange is this. They may say a minimum share price is this. There's all these different listing requirements.
So what if your market cap drops then vastly? Like you said, if it's vastly overinflated, and then do you get relegated to a different stock exchange?
No, not right away. There's always a period. But sometimes if stock drops dramatically, they force you to consolidate your shares so that let's say there's 1 billion shares, the stock drops to 10 cents. They say, okay, roll it back 10 for 1. So now there's only 100 million shares. Yeah. And then the price will go up 10 times.
So they're like manipulating the market cap in a way there.
Yeah, they want to, sometimes it isn't practical for a stock to trade at pennies.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Sweet. Well, I'm glad I learned something, but none of this solves my hair hat situation. Have you seen that? I have seen you wearing my hat in the past.
I think you need more than a hat to solve that hair problem. A cap, I should say.
All right. Well, if you see my hat around, you better give me
I'll
that.
let you know.
All right, mate. Peace.
Paul Chu joins me now. He's the CEO of Weekend Unlimited Inc., trading on the CSE under the symbol POT. Paul, welcome.
Hello there.
See you. How are you?
Same here. Fantastic. A lot colder than where I last saw you.
I'm sure. You recently changed your trading symbol from YOLO, which was an abbreviation for You Only Live Once, to POT, which some might consider quite the coup. How did that happen?
It's luck. I guess if you did the right things right in your previous life or two, you eventually get to own the pot symbol.
Ah, I see. Okay, let's talk a bit about the company. Tell me what Weekend Unlimited does and why it should be considered for investment by investors.
Well, we are a lifestyle-driven cannabis company. It is a cross-border play here. We have properties in Canada, in the U.S., as well as in Jamaica. We are a vertical with MSO type of aspirations to roll out our properties throughout the world. And our specialty is creating brands in a market that is overlooked by many others.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the brands that you guys currently have?
We've acquired a few brands. In California, we have acquired a company called Canna Candies, as well as Canna Medibles, which is more on the THC side. We have acquired Verve Beverage and Champs Energy out of Arizona. And we also have another brand in the works out of Jamaica that we will be closing as well.
Cool. So you've got performance drinks, candies, and other stuff coming out of Jamaica. Now, didn't you guys also have a sort of event-driven component to the company?
It is called Weekend Live, Unlimited Live, and that is driven by different type of parties that we throw, that different type of meetings and meetups. In some cases, where we do a lot of charity. And so it is a form of advertising that we're not afforded by the current ways of marketing here in the States and in Canada. But we do plan on using the Weekend Live as a way to reach our consumers, reach our supporters, and find a way to really connect on the experiential side.
Sounds like a good plan. And is there a travel component to your business model?
I think we would love to find a way to incorporate travel and leisure or spa into it. And I think what makes a better place than to start in Jamaica.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I was on a trip to your operation in Jamaica there, and I thought that, well, I can say that I had probably one of the best times I had of all of 2018 there. So the main focus then in Canada and the United States is you have growing operations in both Washington and British Columbia, correct?
British Columbia is a hemp farm, but we have to decide whether that once a year grow is actually a business to invest in and pursue. So I think we have yet to decide how we would invest that type of assets in that territory. However, in Washington State, we have acquired a brand new an asset that is called Boggy Booms with 24,000 square feet of indoor. It is the largest of its indoor space in Washington State, and we will also do packaging out of there, distribution, and as well as our own type of branded weekend products.
Very cool. Okay, so what's your what's the market look like in 2019 for Weekend Unlimited? Where are you going to do the biggest volumes of sales? Where's the catalyst for investors?
We've always felt that the catalyst would be from California, and that is where our home base is. We have production facilities out of Adelanto, California, which is in the high deserts. That operation where Weekend Unlimited has financial interest happens to be the largest producer for distillate in Southern Cal. They can produce 3,000 liters of THC distillate a month, and trying to find all the feedstock and biomass for it is the big challenge for them. We will launch brands out of there with packaged goods such as vape, flower, as well as two other very distinct, what I considered maybe, well, I'll share more when I can, but it is a newly recognizable format that hasn't been really played with in the THC space.
That's interesting. That's intriguing. Very mysterious. I love that.
That means you're going to have to call me back. I will let you know in due time. But we do have a beverage focus. We do have an edibles focus. You know, I'll give you a little hint, and that is intimacy. And so you can think about ways to create that market or experience that market even further.
Now you're really exciting me. Cool, Paul. All right, then. So we'll leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in due course. Thanks very much for the update today.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
I got to tell you, that party that they had the sort of the clips from looked kind of hot pot.
Yeah, actually, that was quite a party. There was several parties there. They had this amazing ability to fill up this beautiful house on the cliff facing New York, in the Hollywood Hills, or facing New York, facing downtown LA, and it was always full of
interesting people,
very young, and let's just say
vibrant.
Yeah. They didn't need to work very hard at looking fabulous.
Like, you know, sort of the beautiful people, as it were.
The beautiful people, I heard. The beautiful people were all there. Yeah, so it was fun to be there. Yeah.
And now you're here.
And now here we are.
And next week you'll be somewhere else.
Yeah, next week.
What do you think of the adage? You know, you should just keep moving. You know,
just keep moving.
Like, you know, you keep moving.
Yippee-yo,
like you're moving all the time. You ain't sitting around like this. You get up and you hit the.
It's your misfortune and none of my own.
Oh, you're bringing a tear to my eye there. Oh.
Yes, Ed, keep on moving. The rolling rock gathers no moss.
Yeah.
Papa was a rolling stone. Never mind, we won't go there today.
Okay.
Getting ready for a little rock and roll springtime, but not quite yet. So I was interested in your little thing about market cap, Ed, and I was watching for a little while, and I was waiting for it, but what is market cap?
It's just an attempt to put a total value on a company, because there's a limited amount of shares. There's no such thing as an infinite amount of shares in a company. So if you know there's so many shares...
So just correct me if I'm wrong, market cap is... shares out times price.
Right.
That's the market.
And then there's different types of market cap, like fully diluted or basic, you know, based on, you know, if warrants are in the money, sometimes they use the warrants that are in the money and not the warrants that are out of the money. Right?
Okay. Some guy, Johnny. Hello, Johnny. Say, Johnny, want to go for a joyride?
Johnny,
hey, Ed, what's
Jimmy,
going on with AMX? Question mark. How are you feeling about today's drill results?
You know what? The drill results I thought were pretty good.
Pretty good? Those were outstanding, man.
Yeah, they are. They are. But you know what? The market is moved up now. So the stock, I think, backed off, 5 or 6 cents or something like that? Let me take a look. I like it. I mean, like they've got a lot of land and they've got a lot of money. They just... let's see here. Wow, down 10 cents. Okay, down 700,000. Bit of a correction.
Yeah.
Bit of a correction. Hit as low as 50. Well, there's going to be more. Victor, the CEO, I understand, is in South Africa at some kind of convention to do with lithium, which is because he's still very, very interested in Namaste.
Yes.
So when I'm going to maybe send him a text and say, you know, what's up next there, young fella? Stock's broken this upward trend, though, I got to say.
Yeah. All right. So what's the most interesting stock of the day today, Ed? Cannabis-wise. Whoa, I'd say you're pretty gonna pull out. Is that Kronos?
No, that's not Kronos. That's AMX.
That's AMX.
Let me tell you
big sell-off today. The market didn't really like the news.
Well, you know, it's had a big move, but it's still, there's not many shares. There's only 40 million shares, 45 million shares. So the market cap is...
When's the next drill hole coming up?
I don't know. And that's what I have to find out. Okay?
All right.
So let me just tell you. You asked me a question. I'm going to quickly ascertain that question.
I still have all my AMX shares. I didn't sell any.
You didn't, eh?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. You know why? Because I was too busy watching the Namaste drama unfold, and I was like, what the?
Yeah.
So I didn't sell any, but did you end up testing out over the weekend at, James, what did you end up testing out over the weekend at our house party? Any favorites? Person X wants to know. Well, what did I try? I smoked some Royal High White Shark. And the Royal High White Shark, I didn't like, it was not a very clean trim, so it wasn't polished. There was a little bit too much stalk on it. There was a little bit too much leaf in the bud. I didn't like that. It was.
You're quite the aficionado, aren't you?
I've been growing it for a while.
How many F's in aficionado?
One. And I.
Damn it.
I polished. Anyways, I had 2 big bong hits, and it was all THC, no CBD, so it was fine. I was all hopped up on CBD from my morning dose, anyways, so that was all good. I didn't like it. I'll tell you this. And I'm going to say this again, I have never received what I would consider premium dried cannabis in the mail in Canada. I've never received it. So, notice I'm being very diplomatic there, not naming any names. I'm saying it's all shit.
So I have a list of marijuana stocks that I've put together, my list.
Oh,
and so the ones with the biggest gains.
Start your own show news?
The ones with the biggest gains.
What are you saying there, Edward?
IN in Toronto.
Can I co-host?
EMH in Vancouver. Yeah, you can be my co-host.
Okay, whoa, let me write these down.
Okay.
Are these hot stock tips?
Well, these are ones that have had big percentage gains today. Like, for instance, EMH was up.
EMH.
Up 16%.
Electromagnetic Healthcare. Or Emerald Health.
Emerald Health.
Yeah.
Weed MD.
Emerald Health
Weed
partnered
MD
up.
was up 13%.
Weed MD. What about Village Farms? We've got Giorgio Del Vione wants to know. He's saying, James, Village Farms up 16% today.
Okay, it's not on my list.
Also, anyways, sorry, Person X, I did not finish my discourse.
Biggest loser?
You, me?
Namaste.
Namaste, yeah, okay. That's it. Duh. We also had on hand, let's see what we had. We had Ease from Tokyo Smoke. Ease is my most liked LP supplied cannabis, and I like Ease because it's got a healthy balance of CBD and THC, and I think it's mostly sativa. So it has, as far as LPs and the caliber of weed that they're capable of delivering in the context of a provincial and national regime, that's the least horrible. That's not really a compliment, is it? Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to be growing the best weed that you can get in this country, but you can only get it if you come to my house and I smoke it with you. But that won't be till June. So I'm growing 1 Black Rhino. I'm growing 1 Early Skunk, so I don't have to wait around forever.
Early Skunk.
Early Skunk. I'm growing 1 Granny's Medicine.
That comes out in February as opposed to waiting till April?
That's Groundhogs.
Okay.
And the Groundhogs
Skunks
disagree.
and Groundhogs look alike.
No, but neither one eat grass. That's probably why.
I think they both.
The great differentiator. But we had a whole bunch of cannabis. We had like several from Aurora. There's a couple that didn't actually get opened, so I'm going to smoke those myself, maybe with you, Ed.
Like now?
No. Not now. Rich says he's going to send me some. Send it on, brother. Yeah. So, and then I've got one plant. I'm going to grow one plant of Granny's Medicine, which is 20% THC, 18% CBD. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That's a sativa primo. And but anyways, and then I also have one called Critical Mass, which is low THC, low CBD, but balanced for those light days when you just need to take the edge off. Anyways, I bet you're wondering what's happening tomorrow. Dennis Chashek is going to be here from Radiant Technologies. Round of applause from the live studio audience on YouTube. Yeah, wow. I know. People have been requesting him forever. Well, now he's coming out of the closet because he's finally got something positive to say.
Yeah, okay, this will be good.
Todd Harrison from CB1 Capital Management will be weighing in on the state of the U.S. market and what's going on there. Bill Kerr is going to be here from Argo Gold. I believe you're going to interview Bill.
I'm going to interview Bill, and this is interesting because Bill is a field geologist, and they're going to start a drilling program at Argo Gold. Argo Gold is up in that Red Lake area. It's a Great Bear lookalike.
Yep.
It's only capped at about $6 or $7 million, and the stock, I would suggest, is very well placed. Like, for instance, the spread between the bid and the ask right now is about a nickel.
Yes.
Okay, which you may not like, but you may like it after. I don't know.
You know what? We've decided that we're going to go an extra 10 minutes today. You know why?
Why?
Because we can't stop talking.
So anyway, Bill's going to talk about the program on thing.
Hey, some douchebag here is telling me that Aurora is halted. I think it's the same prick who told me that it was halted last week when it wasn't, and it was aftermarket and everything. So fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
It is halted because every stock's halted.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Hey.